Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live. Our topic today is farm fresh foods that help fight inflammation. I'm Nancy Zawicki. I'm a registered dietitian with Northwestern Medicine, and I spend most of my time at the Delmer Cancer Center.
And my name is Mary Zupke, and we're happy to see you guys. I'm also a registered dietitian at the Delmer Cancer Center and here at LivingWell. So we're happy to be here with you, and thanks for joining us.
Yes, we're at the LivingWell kitchen today, and it's beautiful. So we look forward to spending time with you. So we have some questions that came in, and you're also able to put any questions you might have in the comments, and we'll get to those. So first off, what is inflammation and how does it relate to eating farm fresh foods? So there are two types of inflammation. There's acute and chronic, and acute inflammation is actually a good thing. It helps your immune system attack anything in your body that it recognizes a foreign intruder, such as a splinter, a blister, any wound, and it helps to allow healing. So that's really good. Many diseases, including cancer, heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, depression, and Alzheimer's, have been linked to chronic inflammation. So there are steps that you can take to help reduce chronic inflammation. A lot have to do with our lifestyle choices, like quit smoking, get good exercise, healthy diet, and do things that help reduce stress. A variety of plant-based foods have been shown to lower risk of many types of cancer, as well as other diseases like obesity, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes.
Yeah, and those anti-inflammatory foods, like what are they, right? And I see some of our friends on there. Thanks for joining. Hi, Carol. It's great to see everybody. We love this. So what are some of the anti-inflammatory foods? We have some examples here on our display. So you can see some of the greens, like we've got broccoli, we've got some asparagus, apples, berries are also high in anti-inflammatory properties. You can see the peppers there, red peppers. Red and yellow peppers actually have double the amount of vitamin C that green peppers have, in addition to their anti-inflammatory properties. And then you see onions and beets. We're going to talk about herbs some more too. So we've got a whole slew of them. Summer squash, Swiss chard, those are not over here, but we have a lot more things that we're going to talk about. And then a recipe including spinach a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. So another question is, what are the nutritional benefits for fresh vegetables and fruit? So fresh fruits and vegetables are best at their peak maturity. They tend to have a higher vitamin C content due to less processing by heat. And something else, like with red peppers, they stay longer on the vine to ripen, and they tend to have a higher vitamin C content than green peppers and yellow peppers. Vegetables and fruit also offer higher B vitamin levels due to less transportation time. They provide higher fat-soluble nutrients such as vitamin A and E, and are carotenoids such as lycopene because of reduced changes to heat, light, and oxygen. And I wanted to say lycopene is found in tomatoes, but especially when you cook tomatoes, it comes out more. So you can find it in ketchup and tomato paste and tomato sauces. And it's even nice to just roast some tomatoes with a little olive oil and garlic, and then kind of smash it and add it to like a whole grain pasta with a little olive oil, and you've just increased your lycopene content.
Really great for men's health too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the American Institute for Cancer Research recommends filling at least 2/3 of your plate with fresh vegetables, and with non-starchy vegetables, whole grains, and fruit, and fill the remaining 1/3 with lean proteins or plant-based proteins. So, and you want to eat for color, so including a variety of colorful vegetables on your plate, you'll be getting a lot of your antioxidants.
Yeah, so there are a lot of benefits for purchasing seasonal produce as well. And having that buying in season or buying local, both of those qualities really help with nutrient holding on to those nutrients. So we know that once fruits are picked and vegetables, that there's a high rate of respiration. And that is when the fruit will continue to ripen and some of the nutrient quality may go down, kind of as Nancy mentioned. So you can also kind of help this at home. If you want to have fruits or vegetables ripen a little quicker, you can put them in a bowl with a banana, and that will help with some of the ethylene gas and help with ripening. So you can do, I like to do that with avocados, but you can also do it with some other fruits and vegetables that you buy locally.
But also putting them in a paper bag too.
Yeah, especially peaches, and we're just about to get into peach season. That's a great idea, Nancy. So fruits and vegetables usually take about 5 days to arrive at their distribution center. And then we know that if they're grown in the U.S., that's about the amount of time. But if they're grown in a different hemisphere, for example, it might take even longer. So you may have, once you have purchased it, or once it is picked and then it has gone to the distribution center and reaches the grocery store and then gets to your plate, that could be up to 15 days. So, if you're buying local and you buy it at a local farmer's market that we're going to talk about shortly, then, you can decrease that time to 1 to 3 days and the nutrient quality is going to be better. So you can also save cost because if it's in distribution, then you're going to have that transportation cost that's going to go into the food. So buying local, where you're just getting it right from the farm, you don't have that added cost. So you really don't want to overbuy produce, though, because we don't want it to waste. So we want to use it up as much as we can. And using those seasonal foods that are fresh taste so good, too, don't they? Yeah. So if you have some produce that's left over, or even some fresh berries, we're getting some likes, and thank you guys, it's nice of you guys. You can use those small servings in, like say you just have a part of a beet or, a quarter of a cup of spinach, chop it up and throw it in your soups or throw it in your salads. Yeah. You can even, we talked earlier about composting. So if you have a little container, you can even keep it under your sink. You can put the rest there and then compost it and use it in your gardening for later.
Mary, I just bought some fresh raspberries. I bought them like 2 days ago. And so this morning I was washing them to bring in with my breakfast. And I noticed a couple little pieces were getting that mold. So I was like, oh boy. So then I hurried up and I put them in the freezer. I took what I needed and the rest I put in the freezer just to slow down or stop that aging process, I guess you could call it.
I love that idea. And you can do that with herbs too, where you chop them up if you feel like you've spent a lot of money on these herbs. And then you get them at home. If you want to chop them up, you can put them in an ice cube tray with water, or you can dry them and keep them that way so that you're not having waste. We can't really afford to have a lot of food waste these days, right?
And the other thing, like berries are in season now, like fresh blueberries, and so they're at a really good price. And a lot of people are using blueberries all throughout the year. So I just, freeze them, and then I like them frozen in my cereal because it makes it really cold, the milk. Or I'll make blueberry muffins, or, there's so many uses for fresh berries.
I know.
And they're so good for you.
And we're getting into the seasons now where you can pick. Yeah. So picking your own and getting a large quantity of those is a great idea too, so that you can freeze them in batches, or I like the trick too where you freeze on a cookie sheet or one that has a little lip. If you put all of your blueberries on there, then they freeze separately. Then you can put them in a Ziploc bag and take out a cupful or however many you need.
I've been taking the whole container that they come in, the plastic container, and I just stick that whole thing in the freezer.
Oh, isn't that great? Yeah, and you can use them for whatever you need.
Yeah, it doesn't take up so much space because it's kind of organized that way.
So Nancy, what about organic fruits and vegetables?
Yeah.
Are they healthier?
Well, it's a controversial subject.
We get that question a lot.
Yeah, because many people want to do just what's best for them, and they think organic is always the best choice. But it can get very expensive too. So research is far from complete or conclusive, But they had a few studies. They said no significant differences in vitamins and mineral content between conventional and organic. Conventional foods found to have a higher nitrogen and pesticide residue, and then organic foods were to be higher in phosphorus and acidity. So organic produce contain higher levels of certain antioxidants and lower in pesticide residue. But the bottom line is what fits into your budget. We want you to use your senses, like your eyes, smell, touch, to see what looks better. So sometimes I'm at the grocery store, and they'll have organic produce, and then they have the regular, and sometimes the organic doesn't look so good. So then I would go for the conventional, but it's really go with now, especially with food costs going so high, kind of pick and choose what looks best to you, and then you're always going to wash it, and if some things I might peel too. But yeah, we want you to increase your fruits and vegetable intake and not worry so much about whether it's organic or not. So it's better to have a higher intake of the produce than to worry about that.
Well, and organic doesn't always fit in the budget, right?
No, right.
So if you can, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, when you go to farmers markets, sometimes you find an organic farmer and kind of compare the prices. If you can get that and it's reasonable enough, then go for it. And yeah,
So what about gardening? I mean, gardening is a great idea too, where you're able to grow some of your own foods. Right now, we know that, kind of to Nancy's point about the organic, there are about 9% of Americans that are getting the servings of fruits and vegetables that we need. So
it's low.
It's really low.
Yeah.
So the U.S. Dietary Guidelines talks about getting 2.5 cups of fruits and vegetables a day, but we know for an 1,800 calorie diet, you probably need 3 1-cup servings of fruits and then about 5 1-cup servings of vegetables that are fresh. If it's cooked, you need half of that, but that's a lot of fruits and vegetables to try to sneak in. So if you can participate in gardening or go to a community garden, we're noticing that 1.4 times, those people are 1.4 times more likely to increase their consumption of fruits and vegetables if they're in some way associated with a garden. So, and it doesn't have to be a complicated process. You can share a garden plot with someone. We're going to talk a little bit about potting, having it on your patio. But we know that people that are participating are definitely consuming more fruits and vegetables. And another study said 3.5 times more likely to consume fruits and vegetables, at least 5 times a day. So that's quite a bit.
And kids are probably more inclined to eat fresh produce when they've seen the start to finish with growing and
totally, yes, they see
starts at a young age.
the modeling, right?
Yeah.
Where they see modeling and they see parents, if they're eating fruits and vegetables and in the garden, they're going to want to do that too.
So I also heard that gardening is the #1 hobby that people have. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Because men and women enjoy the gardening. Some people just like to get the produce, the benefits
The fruits of their labor.
Yeah, that's more.
So what about if you don't have a yard, Nancy?
Yeah, so I myself, I'm not a gardener. I love seeing a garden, and I like picking the produce, and I like utilizing the produce, Luckily, my husband likes to garden, so. But if you don't have a lot of space for a garden, a lot of people are going to the small containers. And I like that idea. So small pots and containers are versatile. You can move them around as needed. And it also, it cuts down on weeds. And using a plastic pot, too, is lightweight. And so you can kind of see, is the front of your house better or the back of your house, like finding where your sun patterns are and your shade?
Have you seen those burlap bag containers they have now?
No.
Those are really interesting too, where it's kind of a burlap bag and the soil kind of forms the pot inside of that. So those are kind of interesting too.
So some of the things you can do with small containers, you can grow chives, mint, lettuce, kale, and other greens.
And mint is good in a container. It'll take over your whole garden.
I have heard that, And we like to promote use of mint, too, especially at the Cancer Center, because it helps with nausea. And It also just helps freshen up a beverage, and it's really nice.
Great garnish.
But oregano and basil are good for small containers, and they can help deter mosquitoes and flies too. And then large containers, like a 5-gallon bucket, would do better with tomatoes and cucumbers, green peppers, zucchini, or any kind of peppers and zucchini. So I recently received a large container for a tomato. Came with the little, what do you call that? The
trellis?
Trellis, yeah. So it's all ready to go, and I'm excited that we're going to have a little container patio of vegetables. But also containers need to have holes for drainage, and you want to fill containers with good quality potting soil. And let's see what else we have. A big advantage to container gardening is that plants require less water, and containers are movable to meet the sunlight needs. Plastic containers are less heavy, and they hold moisture better, and they do not crack. They can help control pests and avoid soil-borne issues like fungus and bacteria by using a container. It's easier to buy already established plants versus seeds.
Right. I mean, you can start seeds.
We have a little one here.
Yeah, and they're not too hard to start the seeds, but if you want the plant, you'll get more of the immediate benefit.
Yeah.
And then if you are using them in your cooking, you want to kind of harvest these leaves on the bottom of the plant so that you still have the top of the plant that's getting that sunlight and that chlorophyll to continue growth, and then you take them from the bottom and you'll get some regrowth from a lot of the plants.
So that's true of basil and
Yeah,
any of the plants.
definitely.
That's a good tip.
And this sage right here is a perennial. So if you buy a plant to use it for your cooking, you can actually put it in your garden. It'll come back next year. Oregano is another perennial. So yeah, so those are great to have.
And then also with hydration, you want to check to see where you have a hose hookup too, because it's really tedious to keep refilling a watering can to go water everything.
Although my husband loves doing that.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
So anyhow, and if you just have shady area, then salad greens prefer those shady areas. But I think tomatoes need more sunlight.
Right.
Yeah.
Some other considerations if you have a patio garden, sunlight is important, and most vegetables need about 6 hours of sunlight. So you want to kind of check out your sun, where the sun is coming, so that you know where to plant what. And
or where to move your container.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can just kind of check it out.
Yeah.
The hardy varieties are tomatoes, peppers, melons, and squashes. So those are pretty easy to grow. And then there's some fruits and vegetables that need a lot of room, so you want to just kind of keep that in mind. Raspberries can kind of take over. Same with strawberries. And when you're looking at vegetables, you need a lot more space for squashes and things like that. Now, you can do those in a container, and they might kind of creep down, so make sure there's a little space for them, and then watch those rabbits too. But, think about just having those. What we decided, because we don't have a big yard, is we have a small raised bed kind of herb garden. And so we don't have to we have a lot of herbs that we're showing here, the dill, the parsley. Here's an oregano. So if we can plant one of these plants in there, we can use the oregano basically all summer. And then you don't have to worry about buying those expensive ones. And then at the end of the summer, where it's nice and big, that's when you start to dry and keep it for the coming months. So that's a great way to use those. The other thing I brought was a little rhubarb. So we're in rhubarb season now. So
is that from your garden?
This is from our garden.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can pick it. I like to make jam out of it, but you can do some other things too. I don't know if you can. There, you can see it a little better when I put it against the cabinets there. So rhubarb is very high in antioxidants. So it's got some good nutritional value, but it's also good to combine with other things and you know, a lot of people like to do it with strawberries, but rhubarb can be eaten on its own too.
And
It's delicious.
You can combine the two, right? If you're making jelly, you could do strawberries and rhubarb or
Yes.
pie.
Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds
Exactly.
good. So
Yeah.
I've seen people put marigolds in their garden. Is
Yeah.
it just for looks, or is there another benefit?
Yeah, I mean, marigolds can ward off certain insects
Yeah.
and also mosquitoes, so that might be good for your vegetables as well as you. And you can pot those as well. So they have the same benefit in the pot or in the ground.
Yeah.
They're really a sturdy flower, and they add a lot of color too, so it's kind of nice to put them around the garden anyway. Yeah.
That's neat. Yeah.
So our farmers market's a good place to get produce?
Yeah, I love farmers markets. I really like supporting the local farmer. You know, it's really, really fresh. And like when you were saying, the transportation, when you add up all the days for it to get here, the quality goes down. So going to the farmers markets, this is the peak time for all of them. They go through like early fall, but it's really great. And farmers have a wealth of knowledge. I remember one of the markets years ago I went to, I was starting to like try beets, you know, and then they had all these different varieties, and it was so fun. And the farmers know how to cook these things too, so you can ask questions, and just gives you that permission to try something new and make it really good.
I know right now we just finished ramps season. Those are kind of an onion vegetable, and it's a very short season, but Illinois is one of the few states that grow ramps. So that's something that you might want to look at. They're kind of a cross between garlic and onions, so you might want to check those out at the farmer's market and just see if, you know, we're getting close to the end. It's a very short season, but they're kind of a different, I like the idea of trying something new.
Yeah.
And those are going to have those anti-inflammatory properties to help prevent that disease, which is what we want.
That's cool. But also there's currently 8,600 farmers in the United States. And the USDA states the number of farmers markets in the U.S. has grown 76% from 2008 to 2014. And now that market is pretty stable. So do support them. So maybe you have a farmer's market close to you, and it's a nice little outing. And then just maybe bring totes with you to carry it in. But again, remember not to buy too much, because you know stuff can go bad. But there's also like other ways to incorporate. We were talking about increasing our produce intake, just into a frittata, put some vegetables, or a nice big salad for lunch with a variety of vegetables, stir fry, soups. You know, you want to use things up before you go purchase more vegetables. So keep an inventory of what's in your refrigerator, and plan your meals around what you have. So, yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the types of anti-inflammatory foods, but overall there are a lot of different categories, I want to say. So the leafy greens would be one good category of the anti-inflammatory foods, and those can run from spinach to chard. And then we have also the berries, so that could be strawberries, blueberries, blackberries. Blackberries are one of the highest fiber berries, so I like to throw that in. The fiber keeps us full too, so it helps with weight management. And then a lot of times you can add even turmeric to roasted vegetables, or you can add cinnamon to your yogurt parfaits. Those are going to have some extra anti-inflammatory properties. And if you want it really fresh, you can actually take a cinnamon stick and put it in a little food processor and crunch it up. And but I love that for sauces too. So there are a lot of different anti-inflammatory foods that you can incorporate.
Okay, so you already mentioned this, but fresh herbs are a really good way to give food flavor, and that the packaged ones are expensive. So by growing them yourself, you know, and you'll utilize them all summer and all that. But there's some health benefits. So like basil helps to reduce blood cholesterol, and they're anti-inflammatory and may help with joint pain as we get older, our joints. And they could also reduce hardening of the arteries and may help to prevent some forms of cancer. And so we have a couple recipes we're going to show you. They're pretty much done, but we have one that has basil in it. And then dill may help improve a poor appetite, and they may help with liver and gallbladder problems, and they may help with colds or cough, and may help with kidney disease. And dill is amazing. When you start cutting it up, oh my gosh, the smell is so nice. It's good with salmon and cucumber salad. Like, there's just so much. And you can Google these herbs too to see what else you can use them for.
We had the Moose Heart Northwestern Volunteer Project last night, and we had dill in one of the raised beds that was coming back from last year. So usually it's not a perennial, but there was so much of it, and we needed to plant some other things, so we just harvested it right up, and then you can either freeze it or they were looking for ideas, and it's great on sandwiches, salads.
So the other herb I wanted to mention is mint, and that helps with nausea and vomiting to decrease that, or headache, and may help with muscle and nerve pain, and may help with stomach issues too. So if you were going to steep some green tea with a little fresh ginger, you can throw some mint leaves in and then strain it, let it steep for a while and strain it, and it helps. It's even like a refreshing summer drink. Keep it cold in your refrigerator, and even if you don't have those concerns, it's nice as a refreshing beverage. So Mary, how do I use the fresh herbs in meal preparation? But we only have a few more minutes. So
okay, so we have a couple of recipes we want to show you.
Yeah, we have a question too.
Oh,
Okay, we have a question, and we'll move back to show you our recipes while we're answering your question.
The question is, how best to store fresh fruit? Should I store in the refrigerator or on the counter?
Oh, yeah. Well, it really depends on what fresh fruit and vegetable you're talking about. But for tomatoes, for example, and basil, you do not want to refrigerate them. They do better on the counter. Now, that being said, once you chop them up, you can freeze them really easily. And you can actually freeze whole tomatoes. So if you want that whole tomato flavor, you can wash them and put the whole tomato in the freezer and use it for tomato sauce.
So like a pineapple, when I purchase that, I want to use it within the first or second day, because it's so deceiving from the outside. You think, oh, I've got a few days with this, and then when you start cutting into it, there's brown spots. So just do it, cut it up, and then I put it in the refrigerator after that, and I love it. It helps with joints and all that. Apples, I put mine in the refrigerator.
If you have berries, you can put them in the refrigerator to stave off the ripening. Yeah. So it just kind of depends on if you're trying to save them. They're going to be more fresh and a little bit sweeter if you leave them on the counter, but it depends on when you're going to be serving them. Yeah. So as far as our recipes, I made a little egg bite, and I can bring this over if we need to. And these egg bites, you can kind of see they've got beautiful red peppers and spinach, and I just wilted the spinach. And then I wanted to show that I used this herb de Provence, which is really a combination of thyme and marjoram and savory, rosemary, basil, sage, and even lavender. So I actually got this at Trader Joe's, and they have a nice big container of it, but it's a combination of spices, and you can just this doesn't have any crust, as you can tell, and you can just whip some eggs together with a little Parmesan and some of these lovely vegetables and herbs, and then you are good to go. And then Nancy has another recipe that she wants to show.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a Greek salad. I used a seedless cucumber and then a Campari tomato. You can use any type of tomato. It can even be grape or cherry. Just slice
it smells really good.
And then it's fresh basil, and then it's a vinaigrette with red wine vinegar, olive oil, some black pepper, and fresh garlic. But yeah, I could just serve this every night if I had to. It's so refreshing, and you're getting a lot of nice moisture, like high water content with these vegetables, and
really you can
go together well.
Yeah, they really do. Dinner is served, but really you can add anything into those too. So any kind of fruits or vegetables, and we see a lot of people on there. I see some names flashing back and forth. We're so happy that you joined us tonight, and we're happy to be here with LivingWell talking about these fresh fruits and vegetables. So thanks for bringing us into your home, and hopefully we'll see you at our next classes.
Or out at the farmer's market.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great night.
Thank you.